All right. Good morning. The recording is started. Dr. Heather will not be here today, so she let us know very short notice. So the particulars of the topics of discussion will be limited to general Q&A, if anyone has. So with that out of the way, I just want to say welcome everyone that's here and everyone that will hear this later. The RECOUPERS, there's a lot of bright people and there's a lot of information in the groups. We do have regional groups for people who reside within the different regions of the country or internationally. If and when you decide to join any of those groups, you will need to share where you reside within those regions. If you don't, I will remove you because those groups are specifically for finding study buddies or local connections to meet up in person and to coordinate that way. Some of the regions do overlap with multiple states, which is fine. Just share that information. And again, if you don't, I will remove you. And I do that in order to make sure that we don't get lots of bots that just like to get in there and post lots of crap. We've seen it that pop up in the group. Some of you tag me or any of the other admins, and we purge them because we don't want this to be a giant commercial space because we don't like usury. We want to get in here and share information so that others can follow their own journey to lead themselves out of this horrible system we've been under for a very, very long time. So with that out of the way, I'll open it up for anyone who has questions. If you get some gratitudes or successes you'd like to share, please do that as well. And y'all can unmute your own mics because we do not have it set up so everyone's muted when you join in. You don't have to raise your hand. Just unmute your mics and be respectful. Anyone got any questions? Or what questions do you have?
One thing that we can also do, if you don't have a question, is you can state what successes you had.
Hey, I go first. Thanks for taking my call. Can you hear me?
Absolutely, Steve. Yeah, we hear loud and clear.
Okay. I never received my the 147C letter, and I called last week. And what got me puzzled is, I know another friend of mine, and I hope she's online, but she's got her letter, but her letter is a 0147C. So the letter that I'm going to be receiving in the mail that the agent told me that they mailed in the mail for me, is that the right one, or do I need to call back in and get the Pacific 0147C?
Yeah, you're looking to get that used for payments coupon. And that coupon specifically is the LTR 0147C, which a lot of the agents, when written or call in communications, try to steer away from those, or they're just completely ignorant of them. Sometimes people post like, "Oh yeah, a different department handles that." Okay, great. I want that department then, because the use for payments coupon is the thing that you want. Not necessarily you don't want the 147C because it has your EIN and whatnot for your entity, but you want the use for payments coupon. That's the thing payments you want. Yeah, that's the LTR 0147C.
Okay, and also too, to clear it up, can you pay for someone else's items with that? Because I've been hearing some say you can, some say you can't. I just want to get it cleared up. So if my daughter would fall in the realm of student loans, and I want to pay her student loan with those coupons.
I mean, if you go with the actual usage of the word can, as in having the ability to, yes. Will they honor it? That's actually the more pertinent question. Gotcha. And they would have to be willing to accept that you are using an entity to address a debt of another entity. So that would be more of you need to get them to acquiesce to such a transaction.
Okay. Now, I think it was you. Now, maybe I could be wrong, but I did hear on a video that, and it kind of made sense. It was more like when you're doing these actions, it's almost like if you're the trustee, how can you justify it being the beneficiary or the benefit for the beneficiary. So when you start paying other entities debt, it wouldn't make sense for the beneficiary. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Because if you're acting as a prudent trustee, the only concerns you have are what's the highest and best interest for the beneficiaries. So if they're not a beneficiary, what are you doing? Because that looks like from the outside, we got a trustee who's doing unjust enrichment, who's not looking out for the beneficiary. We need to put them in prison.
That makes sense.
Because they're not helping the beneficiaries. They're actually extorting money from the trust and diverting it to somewhere else, which could be construed as unjust enrichment and failure to follow fiduciary responsibilities.
Gotcha. Now, right? Will that fall in line? Like, because let's say I'm the trustee of my trust, and now she's not co-trustee and she's not beneficiary, but what if it falls in line with that? Could you justify it or?
Nope.
Okay, that makes okay. Gotcha.
Right, because like you'd have to look at it from the framework of where are your obligations? This entity, trust, has no obligation to a personal relationship that you have. They have zero. None.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
that your spouse would need to be a beneficiary in order to benefit. That is the only justifiable benefit that they could receive.
Now let me
If
ask
they're
you
not
one
in
more
it,
thing.
you're
Oh.
okay.
Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Yeah, if they're not a beneficiary, they are not allowed to benefit. So then that's not like a stumbling block. That's the thing that you have to be aware of. So it's like if they need to be a beneficiary in order to benefit, make it happen. You're the trustee.
I got you. Now, what if they are the successor? Because I've got that in my trust, my trust agreement that I got her as a successor. Could that be a great line to where I can say justifiable, or would that still not be justifiable?
It would be justifiable in your death.
Okay, gotcha. But not living.
Right? Because it's not living, right? Because it's all black and white. There is no.
Okay.
Well, there is a gray area, and it's a legal quagmire. So if you want to wade into it, where any step you take that's on unsure footing is prison or death, go for it. If you feel like walking that, go for it. It's not advisable. It's not prudent.
Yeah, I just needed someone to, because I was on the fence, so I just needed someone to basically give me the best answer. And I was already leaning toward that way anyway, but like I said, doing doing what we're doing with this trust, it has to be accurate because, like I say, either you're going to go to jail or you're going to be living free. And that's the case. So, but yeah, you sold me. You gave me my answer I was needing for, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. I mean, because like these shouldn't be like impediments, right? Because like if you have someone that you care deeply about who's very close to you with personal ties, and you want them to benefit, okay, create a trust where they're a beneficiary.
That's smart. Correct.
Right? Because then there's actually a legal framework to justify such actions.
Okay. You answered my question,
Saturday. Yeah, great question. Because I'm sure lots of people have them. And a lot of people need to be reminded about that sort of thing. Like if you know someone that wants to benefit, doesn't matter who or what entity, they don't have to be a living person. It could be a dog. Anything can be a beneficiary. Just have to have the correct framework in place for them to benefit.
Now I did hear a call where I think Noble Phoenix was talking last year, or it might have been, no, it was this year. And he was talking about, because he's the trustee, he was able to show how he was able to endorse that coupon. And he said that he was going to give some funds to his trust. So basically he was just going to give it for cash. Is that information still accurate? Like, you are the trustee, then instead of just paying a bill for the trust, you can also use that coupon to transfer money into a trust account, that same trust bank account.
Yes. yes, it's still accurate.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, it's just the
Now,
most difficult part is getting everyone else to acquiesce to it.
Gotcha. Okay. And have you had a success story with that?
No, I have not
Okay.
because I haven't moved in that fashion.
I got you. I understand. Okay. Appreciate that. I land my plane.
I have a question.
All right, shoot.
Hi, everyone. I was calling. Well, I want to know, could I like do two processes for a vehicle? Say, for instance, if I do an A and two Bs,
Mhm.
and also do a UCC1 to put a lien on that vehicle. Could I do that if a lien is not on the vehicle?
Yes, I mean because you're wanting to make it known that there's a security interest lien upon that asset, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing the ABB against the contract that was associated with that vehicle, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, you could do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, just make sure that you pursue the various avenues where they will try to ignore it or circumvent it.
Mm.
That's all.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hello, I have a question.
Okay.
So just to be clear about this whole recoup process, when you are out here trying to file these 1099As and Bs, you have to establish the trustee first. Is that correct? Because you can't just go out here and say, hey, I got a 1099A or 1099B. I just want to make sure, because a lot of people are saying that if you haven't established your FIP, you cannot move on these platforms. Is that correct?
Not necessarily, right? Because like a lot of us are creating or have created trusts, our own trust that we control. The social itself is a trust, but it was created by the government. And we are all the authorized representatives of it. And in any sort of interaction with any of the government agencies or companies that are, Chase, Wells Fargo, Gas and Gulp, anytime you get credit cards and all that, they are acting as the trustee since there isn't one because no one has stepped forward. So there's always a trust involved, always, unless you are dealing with another person, not a person, a living individual, and you're doing a barter transaction, and that's it. Anything besides that, you are dealing with trusts. We are acting in commerce through trusts. We just don't know it. So there's always a trust involved. It's just who controls it, who created it. So the whole purpose of the 1099A is to put it on notice. This particular entity has acquired the interest or abandoned the interest in another particular asset. And the Bs are to do the barter transaction and to report the barter transaction that has occurred so that it's being properly documented. So it can be done just with the Social Security trust. You don't have to go and create another trust. It just becomes more difficult because the way the system is set up is they view the trust, the all caps name, and the proper case name as the same entity because they're not really differentiated unless you really, really know what you're doing. And in which case they're going to try and fight and say, oh, you think you're a sovereign citizen, blah, blah, blah. And they try and throw it out because they are conditioned everyone to just give up and not fight.
Yeah.
But it can be done you would have to be able to stand on the laws and assert your position and remain in honor. The trick is to get them to be in dishonor, because they're always trying to get you into the position where you acquiesce to being that entity. But you can recoup all the credits because it all stems from the living. Because without the living, the account would have no value. So we give it the value. We are the value. We lend our energy and effort out into the world, and it goes and it multiplies. That's just how it works. So the recoupment is reclaiming what is yours that was taken from you without your consent through the fraudulent contracts, because there's no informed consent. If the contract's not fully explained, that's fraud. They can use a whole bunch of legal jargon in there. That's cool, but they don't explain it, so that's fraud. So the recoupment process is just reclaiming it. It's yours. You created it. It came from you, came from me, came from all of us. We just have to figure out and follow through with doing it. It's ours. Much like when we were children, someone took my toy. I'm going to fight. And then everyone comes and steps in. No, you can't be mad at them for stealing what's yours and giving it to somebody else. Like, the hell I can't. It's mine. We've just been all conditioned, some of us to greater extents than others, to be okay with that. Give up everything of yourself and be happy that they left you destitute. That's not right. So the recoupment is just about helping everyone have the tools that they need in order to start claiming back what's ours.
Okay, so that brings me to my next question. Like, unfortunately, I lost my mother back in, what was it, 16? And due to what was going on in her life, basically everything was sent to probate, and I ended up having to, it was a lot. So with that being said, long story short, I ended up being the power in charge of her estate, because I had to sell her home due to financial stuff going on. So for me to go back and try to reclaim that, is that possible? Or
yes. Right? Because of the discovery, you have discovered new information that has been revealed to you that there was fraudulent activity on her estate.
mm-hmm.
And as the executor or the executrix, it is your duty to secure that estate. So you are within your legal capacity, now that you have been made aware that there has been fraudulent activity perpetrated against her estate, that you have that capacity to go after it. Because it's just like with all the things. Like if they say, oh, hey, she owes this third-party company for this debt this credit card had. Show me the contract. Because as the executrix, or an executor, in order to close the estate, they need to validate their claim. Prove it. Where's their evidence? Where's their chain of title? Where's the contract? If they don't have a contract, they don't have a claim.
Right.
And if they attempt to say, we do have a claim even after that, you have the legal recourse to go after them for trying to perpetrate fraud. And by using the estate's name without your permission. That's a fee schedule. So they owe you money. Or whatever it is. You could just put 30 bushels of blueberries. Doesn't matter. Whatever thing of value that your estate or that her estate is owed due to the harm that they have caused. They have slandered her name.
Okay. So that seems like a lot to go back because a lot of this stuff is a blur just because of the fact that I was doing this by myself because of, how family can get when people pass and everybody thinks somebody gets something, and she had about 7 or 8 siblings. And my thing is, as far as going back to get documentation of everything that she had as far as loans and bank accounts and all that stuff, how do I go back to the county where all this stuff was filed? My question.
It's a potential wealth of information there, surely.
Okay.
Because any place where these things need to be recorded would be places that you should consider seeking information, right? Because they want the estates to be closed out as quickly as possible so that they can claim it. Because whatever isn't documented by the executor or the executrix is being abandoned by the estate, and it can be claimed. So if you are unaware that they were trading on her Social Security and birth certificate for her entire life and is worth $100 million, if you don't know that and you don't include it in the estate, they just made $100 million.
Right.
And they can continue to trade on it forever until it is claimed and put back into the estate where it belongs. They can take it. It's abandoned property. It's just a 1099A, and they forgot to mail you your copy. It was lost in the mail.
Okay. So the same
That's
way
for
that
all of us.
So the same way I would create a estate for me and go get an EIN for a estate, I will also do that for her estate that I was in control over, or the court appointed me control of. So I need to go back and file, or I need to file a EIN for her estate. Is that what
That would be a good decision.
Okay.
Right? To properly document and file everything. Because the big thing with the estates is the estate already exists. It's a living estate for all of us. When a loved one passes, the reason they want to close out the estate is they're closing out the active record keeping of the dead entity. That's the all cap SSN. It's already a dead entity. It's a commercial entity. It's just being perpetually operated. But when the living beneficiary passes away, they want to pillage it and take everything from it. So they get another living being to step in to close the records so that they can miss things because of the turmoil and the stress of losing a loved one. All of this is going on for all of us all of the time. The only difference is a living being passes and another one must step in to close the estate. But if you remove the living being passing, all of it is currently going on for all of us. All of us have estates where they are taking advantage of them all of the time. We just don't have someone else taking care of our affairs under emotional turmoil and duress. So it's only you have the benefit of you had to step in and you got exposed to it because someone that you know passed and you were to close it out, close the file. That's the only big difference. So you have massive amounts of insight in how they're operating all this business behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And if you hadn't have been there, the state would have taken over and taken as much as they possibly could and paid out as little as they could get away with.
Yeah, I'm an old member from the W4 groups and Holly and years ago.
Did you have a question for us?
Yeah, I'm returning from being kidnapped, and I'm a bit confused. They tried to kill me. I lost my... they stole my son and daughter. And then our property was targeted. Just trying to get back to where I was, you know, and remember. I have really good paperwork as far as filing in each of these incidents, but I'm being like blacklisted in my industry on the background reports from all these fictional cases, accounts, and I thought I had help, but apparently I don't, because I'm not willing to sign my soul away. So anyway, I'm just trying to figure out, I'm just trying to start again, you know what I mean? That's all.
Well, my condolences on having to go through all of that. I know it must be extremely damaging emotionally, financially, spiritually. So, I mean, start where you are, okay? That's the best advice I can give on that one. Because, like, not everyone gets on this journey knowing everything. Most of us don't. We all have to start where we are with what we have. Just within these channels, there's a very, very large amount of information. So much so that it's easy to get lost. Try to keep your topics or commentary specific to this particular topic channel, because that's why we have them separate. It's understandable there's some bleed over between them because everything interconnects with itself. But you have been shown the darker side of how the system functions. And you're not alone. Others have gone through it. So don't feel like you need to push yourself beyond your limits, because you will easily be overwhelmed by the amount of information that's available in order to reclaim what is yours and to rebuild your life and safeguard it.
Yeah, thanks. I think my memory will start to come back. I can't remember. I just have so much information, and I need to go back to the basics, you know?
Yeah.
One of the place to start for as far as you go is try getting a chat GPT bot and then start putting in as much information you can put in there, because you want to start compiling your affidavit of events.
Yeah, because you want the record of what happened, and you need to attest to it and have it notarized, witnessed. And then if they don't rebut anything, then they are accepting that what you state is true. And that will be your basis of your claim.
Right. And the more that you remember, the more you can itemize it. And then you can go through the chats and find out specific parts of the chat that have to do with what your case is, including a UCC1. Because anything that you have as property needs to be protected and put in C1 or proof that it is and belonging to you at the time. That way, if they go and they try and take anything else of yours, you can be first in line, first in time.
Yeah, they've taken everything. So, and we did have our home in a UCC one, and they just don't care. So, yeah, I'm just stuck, and lucky to be alive. To tell you the truth, they tried to kill me.
Yeah, they will do that. I mean, I say that a lot.
They're not going.
They are not above it. They will wipe entire families, cities, neighborhoods. They don't care. They will wage wars for this type of stuff. And that's not an understatement. That's a cautionary tale for everyone. If you don't want to be in a position to have to fight against the system, then you have to be a part of the system. Because there's only the two sides. So all of us need to be able to navigate it, because they will come after all of us eventually, because they want what we have, because we can give everything value. The more they can take, the more they feel their obligation to take more.
Yeah, you can't expect them to respect your paperwork. You have to be able to find yourself in a position where you know where you can go and have representation that forces them to comply with the rules that you're trying to go by.
And is that help available here, or?
Jeff?
This group is predominantly a information source, since it's there for educational purposes to help people who are just becoming exposed to things. Bringing it all together is like a library, and people are chatting about the things. Mostly it's considered like a do for self, but there's lots of people. Some of them might have the resources that you need, but you'd have to post, and they would have to see it and respond.
Yeah, when this all started, I'd say 2016 and 18 were the real big years. I let them know what it was gonna be like, and I took very strong action, and that's probably why what happened to me happened, because I let them know, listen, if you're gonna steal my kids, my beautiful babies, my offspring, that's gonna be 5,000 gold coins a day. And I put everything in an affidavit, and I shipped it to everyone. And so, yeah, they tried to kill me.
Oh yeah, I mean, if they did not rebut your affidavit and then they did take them, they have accepted the contract. Then you must enforce it. Lean them. Go after them. You've already got the names, right? I assume you have the names. Or the agencies. Get everything that happened in an affidavit and pursue it. Recoup. Reclaim. 5,000 gold coins a day is a lot. So hell, take it all the way up. Notify everyone. DOD, Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, President.
I did. The head of the Treasury, FBI, DOJ. So
alert the militaries.
Have you done
Put
the
Space Force on notice.
3949?
yeah, I did a lot of 3949As on, boy, the major players in each one of the cases. but I just need to get my bearings back. I'm just like I've done so much for so many years, and now I'm just again, I'm lucky to be alive, and I'm just trying to recenter, you know.
All right. So one thing that I would say is if you've already done 3949As and you don't have the name of your caseworker, your agent, then that's where you need to start, because you as a whistleblower are supposed to be getting certain types of protections from your agency, right? So the one thing that you need to do now is to go to the website and go and find who your agent is. You need to call them up and be like, I need an agent. I'm being retaliated against as a whistleblower, and I now need protection.
And be prepared to give them any of the information that they need. Who did it, when they do it, what did they look like, what were they in, all the things.
Hi, this is Brenda. May I ask a question?
You have the floor.
Okay. I was part of the CYC with Holly and Kia, and I finally just gave up on it. I mean, I hadn't even touched it in months. And then I was directed to your chat, your group. And my question is I haven't touched it in several months, and I'm old. I don't remember how to do it. Are there videos out there that will walk me through how to do some of this? I started in 2021. I started filing, and then I just stopped. Then we were filing everything under the business separately. But I noticed that while reading the chat, a lot of this was being filed under a 1040A. Are you now filing it under your personal?
Well, to address your first question, yes, there are videos. Holly has a Google Drive that you can get access to from her mailing list.
Okay.
Which has the older videos and updated videos that she did with Walter.
Yes.
So they took Kia's process and they worked on it.
Yes.
So they're more updated videos. So you can check those out.
Okay.
People have success with it. Just
God, I hope so.
be mindful of what you're going after, though.
Okay.
So if you're going after bank accounts, they could try and close it, or they could close it, block your access. You go after credit cards, they could close your cards.
And they
try and go after your cars, they might try and take your car back because they don't like people having access to the information to cut them out of the system. So they're going to retaliate.
Okay.
So, but there are successes.
Okay. So, next question, child support. My son owes child support, and they're on him hot and heavy about it. And let's face it, if you owe it, you have to pay it. At this point, you have to pay it. Hopefully something in the future will change all that. But is there a way to file on the back child support where he could get something back and catch up, get caught up on all these things, all this that he's behind on? Because he's behind probably for the last 4 years. And they're ruthless. They are coming after him hot and heavy.
Oh yeah.
They've already taken his driver's license, and then I had to pay $3,000 for him to get his license back because they were going to come and pick him up. They were taking him to court. It's been a mess, and they're not backing down. They have his name. So is there anything we could do, anything that he can do to file what he's behind on? I don't know. I don't know the process, I guess.
Well, besides the whole thing being a giant scam,
yes,
you could attempt to settle it with FRNs, but they probably won't take less than what they're claiming anyway.
Yeah. I don't know what FRN
he
is.
Could Federal Reserve note. We call them cash these days.
Okay.
But those are just notes of indebtedness. They don't make debts go away, because that's by law. It's merely we're transferring the debt from one party to another. It's not discharging the debt.
I got you.
Another method is to discharge the debt, but a trustee has to do that. And usually those are by issuing trust instruments.
Okay.
So that's a lot of, it's a very particular avenue to have to pursue that with a particular knowledge base.
Okay.
He could attempt to do it with a promissory note, which they can then monetize, or not necessarily a promissory note, but any type of acceptable negotiable instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the things that how we get a car loan, credit card, personal loan, mortgage. Those are promissory notes. Those are negotiable instruments.
Yes.
I mean, and if you go a step further, go international bill of exchange. But that's another particular avenue to pursue with particular knowledge of using that. I mean, all of it's in the UCC.
Right.
Everything that he would possibly need to discharge and nullify or negate this debt is codified in the UCC. All of it. Like it describes everything that is needed, where it's needed, and how it needs to be presented.
Okay. I mean,
It's just a matter of learning all of it.
Okay. I was going to say, because if I filed the UCC, I know how to do that, but I never heard of it filed on this. But there's a lot out there I don't know, so it's fine.
Well, that's the thing. The UCC is the thing that governs all of the commercial instruments we've been using our entire life.
Yes.
Like it is the basis of everything. You want a credit card? That's UCC. You want a car loan? That's UCC. You want a mortgage? That's a UCC. You want a personal guarantee? That's a UCC. All of it's UCC because that is how you do commercial contracts.
Mm-hmm.
That's everything. Everything we do in our entire life is UCC.
Wow.
How businesses buy milk to put in the stores for us to go exchange FRNs for. That's a UCC. All of it. 100%. We just have never been told this.
Oh,
so it's a completely different way of thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, they've just dumbed down the system. 100 years ago, people used to do this on the daily.
Right.
But they've dumbed it all down, so we have no idea what we're doing, generally speaking.
Okay. Okay, so I should be able to find the videos out there. Holly's videos, I'll look into that and get that. And I just need to pick up basically where I left off at. Everything was filed under the trust, but now, well, I mean, I just don't know. I'll look into it and then go back and look at the videos. And then if I have any questions, I guess I could just put it out there in the chat.
Yeah. And if you already had filed stuff in the past on your trust,
mm-hmm.
you need to get the IRS form 4506-T.
Oh yes,
and request those. Yeah, request those transcripts to see what's already in the system.
Okay.
And then go from there. I mean, you might have credits. They could have possibly processed all of it, and you have credits just sitting in your trust account.
Okay. If I have credit, how does that work? If you have a credit in your trust account?
Well, it's the same way as saying you have money in your bank account. It's just a credit. I mean, it's not gold or silver, so everything is a credit. So there's only lawful money and credit. That's it. That's the only two things that exist.
Yes.
So if you have credit in your trust account, and if he's like a beneficiary of your trust, and your beneficiary owes a debt, your trust can settle the debt by offset.
Okay. So the last time I filed was back in, I don't remember, 2019, 2020, and then I owed some taxes then. So can I file to offset that? If I owe taxes?
In the appropriate manner, yes.
Okay.
Because all value comes from the living.
Yes. I know what you're saying.
So, right? So we can all pledge our future earnings and quantify it in a note where that they can cash it and give us credit. because we're borrowing from ourselves. All of it's from ourselves. Everything is from ourselves. The pay we got from anyone we work for in our life, or we got, a W-2 issued, all of that came from us, ourselves.
Okay.
Like, we've always been fighting for a 25-cent raise from ourselves.
Wow.
Right. That's the giant fraud of our time. Everything was from us. Because there's no gold and silver as lawful tender.
Yes.
All of it is 100% credit from the people that make up the nation. That's us.
Right.
Ourselves. So it's like, how do I get, like, for all of us, like, how do you get any of your businesses to have credit to do anything? Extend credit. It's from us. Extend credit to your business. Extend credit to your trust.
So how do you access that credit? I know what you're saying. I just don't know how to access. I guess that's where I'm getting confused at. I understand the
You
credit.
have to go through an appropriate fiduciary transfer agent.
Okay.
Right? Because all of our promissory notes are currently, with the current system as it currently is, go through appropriate fiduciary transfer agents to be redeemed at the Federal Reserve window at one of the 7 Federal Reserve authorized banking institutions, where they sell it at a discount to the Fed Reserve, and then they get an appropriate amount of credit to put onto the appropriate account.
Okay.
That's it. That's how the whole entire system works.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
All right.
So
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay.
Yeah, it's the system is so mind-boggling. That's why it's confusing. But that is the very simple essence of how all of it has been working since they took the gold. All of it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And here's a cautionary tale about all of it too. When people first learn about this, they try and go for huge, massive amounts of money that they've never demonstrated their capability of managing in their life.
Right.
That's where the roadblocks are, right? Because we've been fighting for so long for peanuts. We can't deal with an Olympic-sized pool full of peanuts at one time. Can't do it. Because they're going to look at it and say, well, that's not prudent because they're acting as trustees. That's not prudent, not going to do it. We must demonstrate our capability of handling what we've never handled before. Prove it. Start small, work up.
Okay.
And small is a relative term based upon the circumstances in your life.
I got you. Okay. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. You got this. The only thing holding you back is yourself.
That is so true. Oh my goodness, that is so true. Okay.
Hey, Steven.
You.
Hey, would it just to chime in a little bit? Couldn't her son just do the ABB on the case? Would that be an option?
Potentially. But getting them to recognize it would be the hard part on that one.
Right, because he would have to have the QSIP to the case.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
I mean, he would definitely need to know where the bonds are in the case. Definitely need those. Yeah, like you don't necessarily need the QSIPs. You need some bit of information to track that
I wanted to give an update.
All right.
Said that I had made mention that I had filed a OID on my Social Security trust. It wasn't OID, so I want to correct the record for what I said. I did the ABB on the Social Security trust, and that's what made the 2.1 billion pop up on my transcript. So if anyone's listening to the last live we had, I made that mention, so I'm correcting that. So nobody files an OID on it, and they could do that process. And then that's how I wound up getting all of those 670 vouchers, even with my sole prop that I never even submitted a CP 575. So I was just retracting my steps, and that's what I did. So just in case anybody was listening the last time. One last question. I went and got the QSIPs on a old foreclosure from '05, and actually the child support case that I had back in the day. The A and the 2Bs were accepted. They never popped up on my transcripts as of yet. Should I still wait for them to come on my transcript before I attempt to pull anything down, or should I call the IRS and just say, hey man, y'all are not doing y'all part. Y'all already accepted it. I need to see it reflect, and then move forward. And then I yield. Thanks.
I would say both of those things. Do not move forward on attempting to get something out of it if it's not reflecting in your transcript, because that's what they check. And people get this. They receive a letter that says, we do not see, and like, I don't know what that means. Like, well, here's exactly what it means. The agent who is reviewing it at the time of the review doesn't see it. That's it. Period. End of story. They don't see it. And when they don't see it, they just stop it right there. I don't see it, doesn't exist, rejected. So if you want to continue forward for those amounts to reclaim them, they have to be on the transcript. So don't attempt to do that without them being there, because they're just going to say, I don't see it, and move forward. And they're going to get you a reject letter. We've modified your stuff, CP23 issue, blah, blah, blah. Do call them in the proper capacity. And I mean, that is, if you, the living, submitted it from actions that occurred on your social person's account, and you're a beneficiary of a trust, have your trustee or your fiduciary call on your behalf. They have authority, you don't. So make sure you use the proper wording when you talk with them. Because when they say, what's your social? You do not respond with my social is, because that's wearing a hat. You want to say, the social of the beneficiary for which I am calling today on behalf of is, say out the social. Like, know your place. Those are two completely separate entities. And then they're going to treat you appropriately. They will continue to competency check you every step of the way, I guarantee it. So you need to be mindful of what you say to them.
It's the wordplay game.
Exactly. Because they speak a different language. Just because they use the same spelling of words doesn't mean you're speaking the same language.
And that's interesting you say that, because I filed an amendment on my 21, and before they popped up on my transcript, this was like earlier this year or like at some point last year, before they actually popped up on my transcript, I had to set up a meeting with TAS, the Tax Advocacy Services, in my local. And then I had to go and verify myself. I submitted my Bs along with that 1040X. And it was like on a Thursday, and the very next business day or Monday, those Bs were on my transcript for the 21, but the Bs never popped up on the transcript for the 23. But what was interesting is that they called me in for the 21, and I also was submitting the 23. They stamped it, they stamped the 21, they stamped the 23, but the 23s never popped up, but the 21s is still sitting on my transcript, and I have to now file that. Now I have to file and I just submitted the voucher for that. So yeah, it makes sense exactly what you're saying.
Right. And a good example of using the right words. when you said, I filed, and you listed the documentation that you filed, that is not the appropriate wording to use, because it is construed as you are the entity for which the documentation was filed for, which you are not. Right? So it's like this stuff bleeds over into normal, common talking. You have to change the way you think and the way you speak. All of us. Right? So it's documentation was submitted on behalf of this entity. Right? You have to be impartial. Like, we are not our socials. I am not a piece of paper issued by the Social Security Administration. I am not government property. So it's documentation was filed. This happened. Speak in the past tense of everything. Because unless you're doing it right then and there, it has happened. It's never I did. It's it has. Because it's a thing. They're all dead entities. They're all commercial entities. They are its. There are no I's in the past. This occurred. This needs to happen. Because fiduciaries and trustees and executors speak with imperatives. It's never, I'm going to. It's like, this will. So it'd be called the IRS. IRS, this documentation was filed and it's not being reflected on transcripts. Why not? Who in your organization has failed to perform their activities? The trustee's office has yet to receive a rebutment or a correction. Where should I be sending the bill to get this corrected in your organization so that your organization will pay the trust for the harm it has caused? Right?
Boy, you're talking like a boss now, boy. Go ahead.
That's what the trustees and executors are. They're the boss. Because they speak from trust law, which is above all of the others. Because trusts were first.
And if they're not performing, they're causing and creating a harm. So there's a penalty that would, or a fee schedule that can be attached to that for compensation. Correct. For the harm that's being created.
Correct, because they have a particular time frame that they must operate in to remain in honor. If they didn't operate in honor, they're dishonored, which is a fee. Because of their inaction, trustees and executors, fiduciaries must perform additional actions which cost time. Time has a cost. Who's paying that bill? Was it the ones who remained in honor or the ones who remained in dishonor? Dishonor. Dishonor must pay. Know your station. Don't be emotional because you're not the thing. The thing is the thing with that identification number. We're all living souls. None of us were born with tattoos on our body denoting what number we are. So don't act like it. Which that's the whole point of setting up trusts and doing your non-decedents. Because we're not dead. We're living. We are unnumerated. We have not been numbered on our bodies by the government. Put them on notice and then start acting that way. Because the ones who are not enumerated are sovereigns who lend their authority to the government to perform according to the laws, statutes, and codes in honor.
So it's like almost in every turn of the conversation, you really need to be talking in third person.
Well, yes, because that's what a trustee and executor are. They're third parties. They're third person. Because the only persons involved are the entity being dealt with, the entity that is involved, which is the social, or a corporation, LLC, trust, EIN, and the one who's in charge, the third party, trustee, executor.
And being that we don't normally talk like that, it takes practice. You're going to have to practice with yourself and with somebody else. Okay, cool.
Exactly.
I yield. Thanks.
Right. I mean, and this is crazy stuff. I'll take it from a page from the military. Go get yourself a salt shaker. tell it what to do. Go get a pen, tell it what to do. Because these are the things you're talking with, dead entities. IRS agents are dead entities. Just because they have a face that looks like yours doesn't mean they're you. They're a dead entity. So practice. I mean, it seems like it's a crazy idea, but it gets the point across. To effectively lead troops into battle, you must be impartial because you're talking to cogs in a machine. So do that. That's good practice.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
So, okay. Stephen, so I guess I want to basically explain my process or my experience with the third party verbiage. So I sent out a W-9 or sent out W-9 forms or letters and sent out 1099 letters or whatever to these supposedly creditors that are crediting the estate, all caps name. And
right.
I did speak to a couple of them, and I basically explained to them, like, listen, I would like for you to send a the bill that you're claiming that my all caps names owes, and that as soon as possible, whatever, so I can finish doing what I'm doing on that end. And she literally, or the person I was talking to as far as the collector personnel, whatever, she literally said, okay, well, we'll have to send that to the third party. So it just, I don't know, it just hit me like, so they do know, certain things. They just don't tell you because, again, the all caps names is a decedent. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because now it's like every time that I talk to all these, creditors or whatever, saying that, the all caps name owes them money or whatever, now I know how to speak to them. They're saying that they're sending it to the third party address that's on file because I've already notified them via letter saying, hey, my trustee is requesting this documentation.
Right.
And it actually works. I mean, it actually made sense. But, I don't know if that can help anybody or not, but
it will, and I'll tell you how it will help them. Because in your case, you were the executor of an estate that needed to be closed out, and you had to, air quote, creditors come forward and say, we are owed. And I'll just say, there was a mortgage involved. Was there?
No, but it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it's money or credit is credit, and it's still the all caps name connected to these accounts because again, we're going in blind, signing these blank endorsements or whatever, and basically giving them the credits, not knowing, well, before not knowing. So now I'm going back to all these people that claim that my blue card or my all caps name owes them, and I'm literally sending out letters because what I've understood is when you send out these letters and you're requesting this information, they don't hesitate to give you send you the information back. At one point I was on the phone with a student loan Nelnet, which is very common for people who went to school as far as financial aid or whatever. And I was asking the lady on the phone about, sending the information for the company EIN or all that stuff, so I could pay it on the back end versus me paying it with the Federal Reserve. And she put me on hold because I said, if you don't know what I'm saying, just feel free to put me on hold and talk to your supervisor. I got all day. So when she did, she just literally came back and just gave me the information that they was gonna put on the W-9 form. And I'm like, it's mind blowing because it's like, you mean to tell me this whole time I could have been requesting this and didn't do it? But again, she didn't know until she talked to her supervisor. So then she was able to give me the information. So yeah, I just wanted to share that, and I yield.
Yeah, and thank you. And the reason I brought up the mortgage in particular, but not just necessarily a mortgage, any debt that an alleged creditor says that an estate owes them. One of the things to be cognizant of is if they're stepping forward saying there's a claim, one, we question them and we say, what documentation do you have about it? Two would be, okay, should we settle this account and make them whole? Are they returning the original security interest that was sent to them to establish whatever alleged debt there is? Because if they're not returning the original security interest, which is the property of the estate, aren't they still keeping property out of the estate, which is illegal? So if anyone comes forward as a creditor for an estate and says, hey, they owe this much on this house or this much on this credit card or this much on this anything, first off, there had to be a contract. And in the cases of loans, there was an original promissory note which was securitized. So in order for it to be closed, all of the estate property must go back to the estate to be dispersed. And these are things that a lot of people don't know about, because not many people know that a mortgage note got instantly securitized and then got sent off and sold multiple times and made millions of dollars. No one knows that, generally speaking. So if someone were to die and they had a mortgage and someone's like, hey, they still owe $15,000 on this mortgage, like, great, I got $15,000 in my pocket. Where is the original security note and the securitization of the mortgage that belongs to the estate? See, they think that they're going to get money, but what they got was a trap. We just need to know our positions and our capabilities. Because as I mentioned before, trustees have the ability to marshal reversionary interest, which is anything that belonged was returned. The ABB is an emulation of that. And why you got success when you called in was all businesses are overseen and held in trust. So all the businesses function on the behalf of a trust. So when another trust steps forward, it's a trust to trust thing. So for one trust to remain in honor, they have to honor the request of another trust. Because if their employees aren't following what's supposed to be done for a trust to operate, then one trust has a claim against another trust, and that trust could be dishonored and barred from commercial activity if the trespass is egregious enough. But it must be documented. So this is why it's very important to understand trust and estates and how they interact with everything.
Hello. If nobody does, I do, if that's okay, but can I ask my question?
Please.
Okay. Hi, Stephen. It's Teresa from Portugal. Hello, everybody. Thank you for this call. It's 5 hours late here, so I'm always a bit... So I wanted to ask, I might have done something wrong, but I was following a lot of other people, and then, so I claimed my decedent estate, and on the last call with Kimberly, she said, you guys don't do that. But in Christina Wilson's book, she claims her estate, she follows Patrick Devine, she claims the estate, and then she does a private bank and trust, private bank and foreign grantor, right? She does 3 EINs.
Right.
So when I claim the estate, does that invalidate me to create a living trust still? Because I can put the estate in the living trust, right?
Well, they work hand in hand.
Yeah. So there's no wrong, right? There's no wrongdoing. So I just claimed my decedent estate back to my birth date. And that's...
Yeah, because the trust is the private side and the estate is the public side.
Public side.
So the estate manages the public aspect of everything, and the trust, it manages the private of everything. So all the value should be within the trust because you want it to be private.
Mm-hmm.
And the estate just handles all the outside affairs.
Okay, but since I claimed it as a living woman, where does that leave me? Should I put the estate inside the trust, or should I leave it as it is?
Depends.
So I should operate from the trust, not from the estate, right? I just claimed it and I leave it there, and then I operate from the living trust now.
Well, you could do both. I mean, it just depends on how you want to do it. I mean, because you can have the standalone estate if you feel like it. And you can have a standalone trust if you feel like it. You could have the estate inside of a trust if you feel like it. You could have the trust inside the estate if you feel like it. You could have the estate inside of a trust with a trust operating inside of the estate at the same time. Depends on how you feel like it. Because they all have different methods of protecting assets, right? But the goal of it is to be prudent. Mm-hmm. Have things separate and isolated, but protected. So that strategy is the thing that you need to figure out. How do you want to structure it? Because you can have more than one trust. Mm-hmm. And you can have more than one estate. It's harder to do. It's just what is best for what you're trying to do is the thing that you should be doing.
Okay. Because when I was on the phone with the lady, she gave me a hard time. She was like, oh, but we already have another entity here, which now I know because I just asked you what it was, the CP575D, but I went to investigate and I said, I realized it's a partnership. So I had actually claimed my name as a partnership, but, you know, I wasn't as solid or as knowledgeable as I am now. Now I know a lot more. I'm still learning, of course. So, and she was like, oh, you can't claim it because you're, you know, are you this person? I'm like, no, I'm not that person. I'm the living woman. I want to claim that estate. She gave me a really hard time and she tried to railroad me around and stuff, but I was firm and I did claim it back. So that just means that the living woman is behind that public estate, right? I'm trying to figure out what the practical consequences of that is.
Well, the practical consequence would be that since you have been recognized as claiming it, mm-hmm. they can't act in that capacity.
Okay.
Because that's the major thing. If, like, you get a traffic ticket, they act as a trustee and executor.
Yes, they presume, yes.
Yeah, they presume because there's no one there. Mm-hmm. You stepped into that office. Mm-hmm. So now you need to have your fee schedule for mm-hmm. all of the things.
Handling the estate, handling the public person.
Exactly. So if they try to go against you and act in that capacity, you've got evidence that you're already that, especially if you publish it. Like, publish it far and wide so everyone knows about it. It's yours. You're that one. This is your fee schedule.
Publish it in the newspaper? Because I did all that.
Perfect. Do you have the affidavit from the newspaper that you did it?
Yeah, I did, but I didn't publish it with this EIN because I hadn't claimed the estate yet. But I did claim the estate. I claimed my name. I claimed my all caps. I did all that like 2 years ago when I started this process. I did 4 publications and an affidavit of publication. So I have all that. But they still ignore me because this is Portugal and it's very corrupt. So that's why they make me learn more.
Right.
I guess. Yeah.
So you are the estate, effectively, since you're the executrix.
Yes.
So if they try and go against you, just hit them with the fee schedule. Send them bills.
You could do that out of a trust as well, right? If you're operating as a trustee, you could do the same.
Yes,
Yeah.
because both of them have that ability.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just depends on how someone's operating.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. And I do have one more question, and I know some other people on here would be, because I was told, if you don't mind, I was told that you couldn't. I was in another group, well, a gazillion groups, and they said to not go claim your credits with a foreign grantor trust with a 98 series. So I was stuck on that for like almost a year, because in order to open up a domestic bank account, you need a U.S. trustee. And I was having trouble opening up a bank account to claim the credits, so I'm kind of stuck. But now I've read through the recoupers and I've listened to the lives, and they're saying, especially Phoenix, he was saying that the only way, prudent way, the legal, lawful way to do it is claim everything through a foreign grantor, because then you are not an enemy of the state. Do I get this right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the lawful way to do it. I don't need a domestic trust then.
Well, see, Phoenix is within the United States. So it's perspective. For us to do it to the maximum protection would to be to operate through a foreign grantor trust, because the grantor of the trust is outside of the United States.
Of the Washington, D.C. corporation, right?
Right. So, but also outside of all of their presumptions, which would be the continental United States, Alaska, Hawaii, and outlying territories. So outside of that, you are outside. Mm-hmm. So for you to properly execute a foreign grantor, you would need a domestic inside the territory. Right? So it's perspective.
I do?
Right? Yeah, because you have to flip it. Because with our foreign grantor trust, we have one outside and we're operating it within. For yours, you are outside, but you have to operate it within. So you'd still need someone inside.
To be a trustee or to be a grantor? No, because no.
To be the trustee, because the grantor's outside.
Yes.
So you need a trustee on the inside. But then there'll also be redeeming and reclaiming what has happened on the inside. Not that you can't do the outside as well, because it's just a trust on the outside. It's just foreign grantor, foreign to United States grantor trust.
Okay, you got me confused there. So I could not be my own trustee, because I was thinking, I thought I could create a revocable living trust with me being all grantor, beneficiary, and trustee, and my kids' beneficiaries. And that would give me gave me a 98 EIN. And with that, I'd open up a bank account and do the 1099A BB thing. I can't do that without a U.S. trustee?
Are you domestic?
No, it would be it would be outside of the U.S. It would be...
Right. Because a lot of the banks like to have the trustee come into the bank.
But I just heard Klaus Schwab has an international... Charles Schwab has an international One Trust bank account, and that make it easy. So I could open one of those and claim the credits through those?
You can try.
Okay, but
I'm not saying you won't succeed.
Okay.
Yeah. Operate lawfully in all capacity. Document everything. There might be particular hurdles that you encounter because you are not domestic. That's all.
Yeah,
because we are within. We can walk. I have like 9 banks in my hometown. I could just walk into all of them.
I know.
So it's super easy for me to do.
Yeah.
It's not for you.
But but if I had a U.S. trustee as a co-trustee, who would then claim the credits? Could I claim the credits as a trustee, or would she have to do it?
Technically, you would both do it.
Yeah.
Because for any of the actions, you'd have to authorization from both.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So it gives it a degree of separation, because there is no action that can be performed without both trustees being on the same page, in agreement.
Mm-hmm. But I can do it by myself. If the Klaus Schwab opens me an international account, I can just go claim it with me being everything. As long as it's a foreign operated trust, right? A foreign entity. Because
I can't speak with certainty.
Okay. Niels is on the same, trying to figure this out too.
Right, because like we have a lot of large international banks which are tied into the Federal Reserve System. So those are the main primary avenues to approach it because they have the most exposure. So they represent the highest chance of success for everyone that's outside of the United States because they deal with them on that level. So the international UCC and international bills of exchange would be things that y'all need to really focus in on because they like to take everything back to the Federal Reserve or through the IMF or the BIS or the DTCC. But they operate primarily with the international contracted settlement options.
Okay, thank you. I have to kind of study this a bit. So, okay.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I'd also like to, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this or not, but I've been following Eon, and he has very good information, and he has kind of this trust set up where he sets up a macro trust and a micro, and he does everything for you, I think, lawfully, and he gets credits and stuff. I haven't really, it's hard to contact him, so I don't really know exactly what they offer, but it seemed okay for somebody who can afford that. Just putting it out there for help if anybody needs help. But yeah, this is a bit complicated.
Very much so. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for your help. Thanks.
Yep.
May I introduce something to this conversation that just happened?
Yes, please.
So I heard, Teresina, that you said when you were talking to IRS or you were talking to maybe the bank. I can't remember. You were talking to somebody.
The agent to get the EIN.
Well, to whoever, you said that you were the living woman and that they gave you a hard time. And also the same confusion or lack of clarity just was kind of, in my opinion, was present through this whole conversation, where I think we all need to be very careful about the office that we are moving from, because the system doesn't want to recognize the living man. They only want to recognize an office. And so we have the trustee office, we have the executor's office, we have the banker's office, individual banker's office, we have then the social security person office. And so you kept referring to yourself as me, but we don't know who you is in any given moment. So even when opening a bank account, Stephen was talking about the trustee for the Foreign Grantor Trust opening a bank account. So my question, I have a question here, Stephen. If we're coming to open a bank account for a Foreign Grantor Trust, and we got this 98 EIN number without a social security person, or without a social security number, because the trust and its grantor was foreign, can we then, would it be recommendable or is a good thing to do to then bring in the social security person as a fiduciary responsible party to open the bank account for this same Foreign Grantor Trust, where in the initial SS4 there was no social security number used? I yield.
Not necessarily, because the primary account will be a trust account. The social person would be a beneficiary, if at all, Like for a foreign grantor, there's no social. So they're not present. Doesn't matter. For a regular trust, they would be a beneficiary or a potential beneficiary, in which case they also are a child. So there's no reason to bring a child into a bank, technically. Sometimes that happens, but it's not required. Even if you're creating a minor account, the minor doesn't have to be present because the minor always has a responsible party. So the responsible party can just show up, which the responsible party is also called an authorized representative. So when establishing a trust within a bank in person, the only thing they really care about is who are you, who's walking in here saying they want to establish it, and under what authority do you act, which would be your certification of trust, which enumerates what it is, who is operating, who has authority, and identification to say, this is me. I am this authorized representative as denoted on this document, which has been, it's an affidavit. It's been notarized. So that's how that operates. That's why we could set up a trust account online without walking in represents particular roadblocks. How do you identify yourself adequately to them? So whatever process they have is what you'd have to do, which has its own hurdles. But that's just the thing. Proving who you are and what station you hold. That's all. And then acting appropriately. So if they want to see the minor come in, okay, fine, whatever. They're just putting, loopholes or loops to jump through in order to continue the process. That's all. And it's just because they have to. So try not to take it personal. It's just business. All of it's just business. So they're just trying to extract value from things. Yeah.
Stephen, is it possible to take one of the 670 vouchers into the bank when you opening up the trust? Is that a possibility, or is that a little far-fetched?
Well, one, we have to, qualify what you mean by the bank. Do you mean retail or private? Because if you're talking retail, no.
Well, let's say I went into Fidelity. So that will be a broker. Can we speak on it from both ends? Let's say a BOA or Chase, and then from a Charles Schwab or a Fidelity standpoint.
There is a small possibility of being successful with that. And the reason it's so small is because the level of individuals you'd have to deal with and their competency. Because if you're walking in off the street, even if it isn't to one of their private bank locations, the individuals at the front aren't that skilled. They are very skilled, but they're not that skilled. So you're talking about you need to talk to a fund manager or a active private banker who is actively managing private clients.
Like an advisor?
No, not them. They're low quality.
Okay, all right.
Right? Like they know people that do it. They don't. They advise. They're impartial, but they don't do it. Right? So they're highly educated. They may know about it. They may know some people who have done it. They don't do it. So you would have to be dealing with someone who has the connections to take a negotiable instrument and remit it to the Fed. So the ability to take a 670 in that's properly filled out to them to get it deposited, very slim. Only due to the amount of people you're dealing with, you're probably like 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 10,000 or less. So the odds of catching one of them at that location is very, very, very small. More than likely, they will need to move to get closer to you, to meet you at a location to do it. But those organizations do have them because they're interconnected with not just the Fed system, but the international system. So they have the people, but to get to them is so many hoops that you have to jump through to demonstrate your competence before you can even get to the conversation to do it. Not that it can't be done. It's just a matter of learning and doing, and learning and doing, and learning and doing.
Got it.
I was told that to be able to sit down with a private banker for such things, for such banking activities, I would have to have over $5 million in funds that are being managed by that account. And this was when I was sitting down with an advisor in Chase Bank.
Yeah, they don't make it easy. And they're not all 5 million. And it's not that you can't walk in there with that amount of money, or excuse me, that amount of credit on a negotiable instrument. You just have to properly have it done. But once you get over, I think it's 500,000, you become what is then considered a accredited investor, which has different constraints on validating identity. So not that it can't be done, it just requires certain steps. So that's why people have lots of difficulty trying to walk into any of these places that do this stuff day in and day out, but they haven't been validated yet. So it's have to be small until we can be big, because there's a validation in between those two things. Now, you could be super stealthy and never do your validation and be worth a lot of money. That's totally possible. People do it all the time. But in order to interact with these organizations and the levels of individuals, we must demonstrate competency to the utmost degree. That's all.
Hello, Stephen. How
Yes.
are you?
Doing fine. How you doing, White?
Oh, I'm still standing on the ground. I have a question related to the Treasury.
Okay.
I had certified return receipt posted back on the 10th of this month, and hadn't received any communication from the it's out of New York. It was a who was supposed to be paid. My attempt was to pay off or set off my mortgage. I called the mortgage company, asked for a payoff quote. It took them about a month to respond to me with the document and who I was supposed to send the document to. They've called several times telling me, well, what's happening with this, is that, and so what I did was I got it, went to the post office and got certified mail, and it was posted. But right now it seems to be sitting at the Treasury, between the Treasury and I think it's a bank out of New York. Could you tell me what's happening with the Treasury? Is it, I did authorize representative and signed it and sent it. Could you give me some insight on what I'm missing on that?
Not really, no. I know that's not what you want to hear, but I don't have data sources inside the Treasury. More than likely, they're challenging something about it. Making sure that you know what you're doing.
Well, I have followed the directions of the indentured trustee, Mr. Cooper, and they're changing as we speak who they bank with. So that's why I went to New York. So I'm just curious as to what my next step would be. Should I call the Treasury and ask, or who? Because the people who work for Mr. Cooper, they don't have a clue. And I did find one person there. I wrote a notice, requested payoff information, who was very nice. Took about a month to get the payoff notice back. And like I said, it was posted on the 3rd. But I don't know where to go from here.
Well, if you're waiting on action on the Treasury, the best place to start would be the Treasury. You could try calling into their regular customer service number line and see if someone there knows the appropriate department to handle your request. They may be a department that doesn't do direct interactions with customers. So you might need to correspond with them with a letter, which is fine, but you just need to know what's their contact info. So, but they're slow. They are slow. So even if you do get the information on who to contact or where to contact and you write them a letter, it could take them like 30 to 45 days.
There's, as far as you understand, is there any new format in the Treasury since supposedly there's been some changes and personnel changes and things like that? That's what I didn't know. I just went by what was posted and mailed into Washington, D.C.
There could be changes. I mean, there's been a lot of laws passed recently that are impacting the finance system as a whole. So they might have internal changes that they haven't made public yet. So the primary source would be their operators for customer service. Just make sure you get to, like, if it's a trust related document, when you call in, like, I need someone who deals with trust customers. I'm calling on behalf of a trust about remittance that was received by the organization. And I need to get an update from that department. They might ask you some other qualifying questions, identification, contact number, account number, stuff like that. Bond number.
Oh, by the way, I did this through 1099-C. Does that make a difference?
Probably not. Because that can stand in as a 1099-A when properly documented.
Well, okay, I'll start doing some calling around because it's out of the hands of the so-called indentured trustee, but their personnel, I think they are just doing their job by calling and harassing, and it bugs me. I want that to stop because I did call.
You could reach out to the Secretary of the Treasury, his office, right? Because he is the one who's over the treasury. And if you are operating on behalf of a trust, which he is the trustee of the trust, one of them, and they are his employees, if they're doing things that you don't like and they're not listening to your requests, he would be the primary contact, or his office is the primary contact point for complaints, especially as it relates to trust services.
Okay.
So just properly document it, straight to the point. Like, what's the issue? What have you stated? They have not followed your requests, and you're demanding action to remediate the concerns, right? Because when you're at that type of level, it's be very short, concise, and to the point. Offer the remedy and leave it on them. Because, right, it's a trust transaction at that point. So you're putting them on notice. You're putting in a request. They accept it or deny it, or they dishonor it.
By the way, has there been any changes in the RECOUPERS live program?
In what way?
I was surprised to be able to find RECOUPERS today. I don't know how I was so fortunate to be back online, but I missed chit chats and back and forth because I was dealing with corresponding with the indentured trustee and the treasury, and I lost contact, and I was kind of wondering where was the flow of RECOUPERS. That's the only reason.
No, I mean, we're still following a format change that we've been on for 10 weeks, maybe 12 weeks.
Yeah. I, as I said, I think it was after the holidays, the July holiday, I lost track because I was trying to deal with some other things. So thank you for answering my questions. I'll try another approach, and have a good day.
All right. Best of luck to you. Godspeed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We got just over 10 more minutes on the clock. Anyone else have questions they would like to share?
I do have a question.
Okay.
This is Aiko. Thank you, first of all, for everything. Your information is so incredible, and the RECOUPERS whole group is so incredible, so I'm very grateful. I keep saying that I'm new on this because I'm just slow to get this process going. I am in process of establishing my trust, so I have I'm working on that paperwork, but I'm not quite there yet, but I'm stuck trying to I'm in a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, and I guess I was looking at all the different channels in RECOUPERS. I didn't see a particular specific Chapter 11 bankruptcy or just a bankruptcy channel, but I was wondering if anybody had any experience or advice, specifically whether any of these processes will work or not work, but just be hindered, or just having that information that there's a bankruptcy looming over my head. Will these processes, can I still do them, or do I need to wait until I complete at least getting my trust established and, EIN and all of that, the non-decedent, just all of that?
Well, firstly, since you're currently in the midst of a bankruptcy against the social person, the efficacy of any of these processes will be very diminished, only because there is a trustee. There's already a trustee, and they've been appointed by the court.
Yes.
Right? So a lot of these things is with the mindset of we are the trustee. Whether we've established a trust or we haven't, we are still acting as the trustee. So, could you do these things? Yes, absolutely. However, the trustee that's there would be the one that really needs to be on board with that. Only because the situation is what it is, and now they're there. So if they're amenable and very friendly and approachable, you might get great success, especially if you can bring information forward, like, hey, they kept the promissory note, they securitized it, and then they took the contract and they made a mortgage contract out of that. There's an account in escrow with the full mortgage amount, so if we want to close this out as part of the bankruptcy or keep it or reorganize it, they've got $300K, $400, $500, whatever, sitting over there in an account, and they securitize it and it's trading. Here's the CUSIP for it. It's out there. We need to get it. Right? Because they're the trustee. They have that authority. They do it all the time. They really know the game. If you could show to them that you know the game, you might get more success. If you want to do all this stuff yourself, you probably going to have to wait till afterwards. Probably. There might be a way around that one. I don't know. I'm sure there's a way. I just don't know the method.
Okay, it's either that way, or waiting until I've established my trust far enough to kind of figure out that process for myself. Because I've already given them the power of, as the trustee, to do that.
Right. So and in fact, I mean, here's one of the things that a lot of the very, very affluent people in society have to go through. Generally, they have 3 to 5 bankruptcies in their life. And usually they don't start making massive amounts of, or they don't have massive amounts of money, as we call it, to their name until after they've gone through 2 or 3. Because they learned a lot. Like going through the bankruptcy process, you have to learn a massive amount of information. Just like having to be an executor and executrix of someone in your family who's passed, you learn a massive amount of information that you never knew. Changes everything. So right. Going through this might be the catalyst for greater success for you. So bring it up to the trustee, approach them, see how much they actually know. So now you have all this information and access to it. You can demonstrate a much higher level of competency for them. So then they might be able to help you out further.
That's great advice. I get what I get the gist of what you're saying.
Yep. All right,
Stephen, is there a way? I was part of a conversation at one point. Someone said that if you file in bankruptcy, that you can actually submit into the things that you are filing bankruptcy. One of the things that you can enter is your birth certificate, but I'm not sure whether that was Chapter 11 or Chapter 13.
Might be both. I don't see why it couldn't be both.
because what
I mean, it probably has more efficacy if it's Chapter 7 because you're trying to like wipe everything out as opposed to restructure it to have a more amenable contract.
I think it was a 7.
Yeah, but like trustees for bankruptcies probably are like a really great thing to learn from since they deal with this stuff all the time and they see the backsides of all of it because they do it all the time. So they have to know. I'm not saying go do that because it's highly traumatizing.
It's already traumatizing.
Exactly. Can I ask one more thing? I remember reading in one of these, becoming the office, being the appointed one at the executive office of the estate, right? Because we don't want to be the living woman like that gentleman was saying. You want to be at the office of the estate. Right. But I did read that on one of those PDFs like 2 years ago, that if you go to court, then you can go to jail because if you have a court case or something and you're showing up as your SSN person, then they could jail you because you're taking 2 positions?
Yes. Right, because anytime that you go into a court, it should only be by special appearance. Which you've previously notified the court will be happening.
Okay, because I'm in a court case with my ex-husband, so I shouldn't go to a regular court.
Oh, I mean, right? You can. You just have to go in your proper capacity, and you put the court on notice.
That I'm.
Which means it's filed, right?
Yeah, and no lawyers.
Right, because it'd be you, the executrix, representing the estate of that number. Are showing up by special appearance.
Yes.
Because he can try and argue that you are that thing, but he needs to also bring proof.
No, but I'm the one who put him in court anyway, so I might just take away the claim. I'm not ready for all that yet.
Right.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you. And Kaif had one. Kaif, I don't know if you guys talked about this before. For those of people like Niels and Kaif who have unlimited credits already, how do they pull them down lawfully? With the 1099s? I was hearing Kimberly talk about the 1099 DA or TA, a new one that's been out.
She talked about the DA for digital assets.
Okay.
I'm not caught up on that process yet. But in effect, no. A good avenue to pursue would be a CPA so that they can certify the transcripts and the credits in order for fund managers and private bankers to utilize them.
So we can't pull them down ourselves. We can't do a for profit of or something FPO for the benefit of, and then apply it to a bank account? We can't do that?
Well, no, because you have to go through the Treasury, the IRS. In order to get it into a bank, well, one, that stuff has to be certified, and that would be a CPA.
Okay.
And a regular bank wouldn't touch it because they don't do that. Retail doesn't do that. That's only private side.
But if you have credits on your trust, can't you allocate those and tell the Treasury to deposit those in your trust account?
You can. If you know how to file the appropriate forms, yes. But then you have to wait on them to do it. And they could just say, please give us 180 days.
Okay.
And then we need another 180 days. Because they're just going to drag their feet as long as possible because they have access to the funds.
Okay.
So, yeah. Because like having a thing is not necessarily a problem. Utilizing a thing is a problem.
Pulling them down. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Thank you. I yield. Thanks.
Hello, Steve. How long has the live been today?
This live?
Yeah, this.
Well, we have done our 2 hours already, and actually this is the end of it. I've recorded it, and as soon as it finishes processing, I will post it so it can be listened to.
Okay, I thank you so very much. You're such a helpful person.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, thank
I
you
thought,
so
why
much.
not help others? I mean, it's extremely complicated information, as much of you have seen. So it takes a while to digest it and to grow from it. So don't give up. It's just a matter of asking the right questions and growing.
But has anybody been able to pull down the 250 from the ES and Bs? Some people have, right? I've heard some success stories.
Some people have.
Yes.
So
Okay.
thank you, everyone. We'll be back in
Thank you.
2 weeks. So until then, everyone have blessed days. If you have questions, we have chats for that. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.